Yo, what is up guys, it Ghost here, welcome back to another video, and in this one, Battlefield 6 has actually revealed that some pretty big changes are coming to two of their game modes, Escalation and Breakthrough, and Call of Duty Black Ops 7 has just released this weekend, and I think it's fair to say the results for them have been pretty underwhelming, and I think that is definitely indicative of how fed up people are of the traditional, let's call it, Call of Duty formula. There are also some fixes coming to various challenges so that those will unlock for you guys. Let's get into everything in a second. As always though, if you guys enjoy the content here on the channel, hitting the sub button is always appreciated, as is the like button. And thank you guys so much for the support. So tomorrow guys is the day before Phase 2 of Season 1 launches, and I assume we're going to be getting new patch notes, so I will be going over all of those in that video, and that's why this one is going to just be a bit of a roundup of everything that's been going on this week. Okay, so first up, I think I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the current release of Black Ops 7, which is the newest offering from Treyarch this time around, and well, it's been pretty underwhelming. Today is Sunday, which arguably you could say is probably going to be the biggest day of the week for their release, and they've hit around 94,000 concurrent players on Steam. Now, Steam is not the whole picture, of course. There are a lot of people playing on the Activision Blizzard launcher, Battle.net. There are plenty of people on PlayStation and the other consoles, but the same can be said about Battlefield 6, and that game peaked at 747,000 players. So that means Call of Duty this time around have only just gotten around 10% of the player base on Steam that Battlefield 6 did. And just to further illustrate how much this game has underperformed, you know, 100,000 players may not sound that bad for most games, but this is Call of Duty we're talking about. So Black Ops 6 released on the 25th, or around the 25th of October, and that capped out at around 300,000 players. Modern Warfare 3 here, that hit almost 200k. So there's definitely been a downwards trend here. I don't think this surprises anybody, and I personally think this is a good thing. This is a clear result of customers and consumers voting with their wallets and saying, you know what, I'm just fed up of this same formula that Call of Duty keeps putting out year after year after year, and I want to see a change. I want to see something different. That's of course exactly what we saw with Battlefield 2042. Nobody bought the game. Those who did refunded it. It had a dwindling player base, and that really drove the change that the community wanted to see, and resulted in us getting a really nice Battlefield game this time around with Battlefield 6. So I really hope the same thing happens now for Call of Duty, and they sort of see, okay, this is just not what players want to play. They're staying on Battlefield 6. They're staying on games like Ark Raiders that have done tremendously well with 462,000 players at the cap, and still almost 300,000 playing right now. So if this isn't a massive sign being held up by the community saying, hey, like, you guys need to change something up, or nobody is going to be interested in playing your games anymore, then I don't know what is. Alright, next up we have an upcoming fix from the Battlefield Communications Twitter account here, saying challenge rewards not unlocking. We are working on a fix for rewards not unlocking when finishing a challenge. We hope to deploy this fix next week. We appreciate your patience and understanding. So by next week, I'm sure they're talking about the Tuesday, which will be the 18th. Hopefully that's going to be in there. I know I've been affected by this. I'm sure a lot of you guys have as well. Let me know in the comments if you're one of those people. I've been completing challenges, or just basically not found that challenges are giving me contribution. And a lot of the time, I'm not sure if it's a bug or it's just worded incorrectly. Like, the UI is pretty bad in Battlefield 6, it has to be said, and much of the time things aren't really clearly explained what you need to do to fulfill the requisites of said challenge. So they clearly need to go through every single challenge there and make sure that they're performing the way they should be. Now, we've also seen some pretty big changes to a couple of game modes in Battlefield 6. One of them has been changed already. The other, it sounds like DICE are thinking of implementing these changes. So first of all, let's talk Breakthrough. And this one was reported on by Battlefield Bulletin, and he says that Battlefield Studios has quietly reduced the player count in Breakthrough from 64 players to 48 in some maps. So those maps are Empire State, Manhattan Bridge, Liberation Peak, New Sobek City, Blackwell Fields, and Siege of Cairo, and Mirak Valley and Operation Firestorm remained the same at 64 players. So this is kind of like an interesting move. Why have they stealth changed this? Why didn't they post this on the Battlefield communications account? The only conclusion I can come to is that they thought people may react negatively to this. They didn't want to draw too much attention to it, and maybe they just wanted to sneakily add this in and then do some statistical testing, some analytical testing on their end. Personally, I don't have a big problem with this because I feel like the pacing and the amount of action that is in Battlefield 6 right now is almost too much at times. I've been playing some Breakthrough over the weekend, and I found it to be a little bit less sweaty. I feel like I can do a little bit more flanking now because of the reduction in player sizes here. Again, it may not just be down to that. Maybe I'm just getting better at the maps, getting better at the game modes, because I'll be the first one to admit, Breakthrough is generally not like my go-to game mode. It's not really why I play Battlefield. I'm more of a Conquest player. But I also know a lot of people just want to see like the maximum amount of players in Battlefield in every mode. Like, I know the fact that they've put Rush down to, what is it, 24 players now? People were like, what's going on with that? Like, Rush should be 48 players or 64 players. Battlefield should be about these bigger game modes. But I would also argue that in the case of Breakthrough here, 48 players is still probably quite enough, and really, the problem is that the maps are just too small for the player count. Even though we've gone down from 128 players all the way to 64 from Battlefield 2042 to Battlefield 6, the maps and the play areas within those maps are just too small. Obviously, outside of Operation Firestorm in Mirak Valley, which is why they've left 64 players on those two maps. And I think this is just kind of like, it's a bit of a band-aid solution, isn't it? Obviously, they can't go in there and just change all the maps, and so it seems that this is one of the smaller changes that they've begun making with the game that they talked about in order to alleviate some of the pacing problems people have talked about. But let me know what you guys think about this below. Now, this next one has actually been detailed by DICE this time, and again, it might be kind of controversial, but this is an update for Escalation, and this time they say we're looking at increasing the time needed for objectives and territory to be taken in Escalation. We've seen that players enjoy Escalation's fast-paced, high-energy flow, but we also want to provide more breathing room for tactical decisions, reaction time, vehicle spawns, and adapting to shifting combat situations. Increasing the time needed for objectives by roughly 20% aims to maintain the intensity Escalation offers while giving matches a smoother, more strategic flow. This change is planned to go live with California Resistance next week, and we are open to hearing your thoughts on it. So essentially what they're saying here is that they are going to increase the cap time of all the flags by around 20% to slow down the Escalation game mode. And I don't think this is actually the worst idea. Sometimes Escalation games go by so quickly, one team can sort of steamroll the other team relatively fast if they manage to get the majority of the flags. You know, the time it takes for that bar to charge up there and for your team to score the point can go by quite quickly, and if you just get a 3-0 on the enemy team, it sort of feels like, I don't know, maybe games go by on like 10 or 15 minutes, whereas I would say a good Battlefield length of game is 20 plus minutes. But something still puzzles me about this, as it does with the Breakthrough changes, and if you remember, a few weeks back, DICE just randomly changed Conquest. Like, what did they do? They shortened the timer of Conquest, I believe it was. I think they did it by decreasing the amount of tickets that your team began with, so, you know, so that the games would be over a little bit faster. And according to them, they just seen in like the data and the analytics that this is what we wanted. And of course, everybody reacted really negatively to that, and they kind of looked a bit silly, really, because they ended up then, you know, retroactively putting that change back, rolling it back. And my question is, why don't they just test these things out, right? They have this new testing initiative called Battlefield Labs. So why don't they just put these changes live in labs, let the people in there test it, and then give their feedback? And if it's mostly positive, then maybe they can try putting it in the main game and seeing what the rest of the community thinks. But for whatever reason, they just don't do that. I do think it's kind of weird just making these really huge sweeping changes to the core game modes without really testing it out at all. It's just like, oh, let's just see what people think of it by putting it in the game, and a lot of the time it pisses people off. Yeah, sometimes they hit a home run and it's the right decision, but again, they have this testing suite there. Why not use it? Now, finally, I wanted to mention a website called Battlefield6clans.com. This is not a sponsored video or anything, I just wanted to shout them out because I think what they're doing is a really great initiative, and essentially what it is a place where you can find or build your own community in Battlefield 6. And this is sort of filling the void that the platoon system from past games has left. As we know, Battlefield 6 doesn't really have any, community-driven features right there built into the game. And so these guys have built this website, and as you can see, you can basically create your own clan and then list it here. You can list your Discord, you can list your website, the profile for it, etc. And so if you're looking for a community to play with and engage with, you can find one here. Or alternatively, you can go ahead and create your own. So under the clan section here, we've got a bunch of the clans. As you can see, you can make your own artwork, pretty much similar to how the platoon system was back in the day. Obviously, I really hope they are going to actually add in platoons at some point. But in the meantime, if you guys are looking for somewhere and tournaments, again, here we've got events, things to participate in, definitely go and check these guys out. They don't have any advertisements running on the website here. This is not anything that is going to ask for money from you. It's purely to help and flourish and really rejuvenate the Battlefield 6 community. So I can't recommend this enough. Again, if you guys want to sign up with your clans and even enter into tournaments here, which it seems they do have prize pools for, so not sure who's put that up, probably the creators themselves, then definitely go and check these guys out. Alright, I'm going to leave it there for today, guys. Don't forget to tune into the channel tomorrow. I'm pretty sure there's going to be patch notes coming out of DICE for the 18th, so we'll usually get the patch notes tomorrow on the 17th, the day before. If we do, I'll make a video covering all of those, and I will definitely be streaming the game as well on the 18th, so if you're not already, make sure you do sub up to stay up to date with all of that. As always, thank you guys for watching the video. Have a good one, and I'll see you all in the next one.